Hi, welcome to this episode of Gridiron TV. I'm your host Stuart Young, and again I'm joined by Allan Price. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the end of the regular season games and the up-and-coming playoff games which start this weekend. Allan, you've got a special guest on tonight's show?
Yeah, we're going to have a studio guest in the form of Callum Buckins. So again, we're going to discuss the season so far. He's just finished the season with Edinburgh and they've qualified for the playoffs, so we'll also discuss the upcoming playoffs. Get his perspective on playing this year, but also what it's like to play in BritBowl for anyone who's going to be going there hopefully in a few weeks' time.
Excellent. And also we'll be talking to head coach of the Football University European All-Star team, Ben Herod, and also Jenkins, who both recently attended the Top Gun event in Williamsburg, Virginia. So don't go away, we'll be right back.
Hi and welcome back. Well, we're now joined by Calum. Calum, thanks for joining us in here.
Pleasure.
As we mentioned before, you've played for a number of years now. You've just finished the regular season with Edinburgh, and congratulations, I believe you won on the weekend. How was the game?
It was a really good game. We were able to get a lot of backups in, which is always a good thing. You know, get them some experience. You never know if you're going to need them in the playoffs. So overall, quite a good victory, and the offense really stepped up on Sunday. So very impressed.
Yeah. And you're a wide receiver, so you're obviously mainly focused offensively. We've spoken to people in the past in Edinburgh. They've had changes in coaching this year. How have you found this year compared to previous years with the team?
Well, in terms of personnel, this is probably the best team that I've played on. Any team that I've played on, as long as I've been playing American football. In terms of the new scheme and putting all that stuff in, it's always hard when you change your offense so dramatically. We've basically changed our whole philosophy. We've gone from a run team to a pass team. So you're always going to have teething problems. But the fact that we were able to win our division and finish 8-1-1, that speaks volumes for the level of talent that we have on this team.
Yeah, and you've been playing for a number of years now, and as with any team, you'll have rookies coming in each year as well as your veteran guys. How have you been working with the Edinburgh rookies and younger guys?
Well, I think what's really helped us is we had our training camp back at Easter, and that was really a chance for the team to come a lot closer together. Obviously, you've got the rookies who get to know the senior players a little bit better. They get to understand our ways of working. When you have 3 training sessions in a day, then you can get out a lot of all the bad habits. So I think that was our key to success.
Excellent. Well, you're now top of the division, looking to go into playoffs, but you're no stranger to playoffs. In the past, you've been all the way through to BritBowl, in fact, with Dundee. So can you tell us a little bit about the playoff experience from your point of view?
Certainly, the playoff experience for me when I was playing at Dundee was absolutely tremendous. It was the first time I could actually say I felt like a professional, as silly as that sounds. But it is a big game. You kind of get that pressure when you walk in. Everything is kind of first rate. It's so well organised. I mean, I think we're at an advantage here because the Wolves, we're so well organised. We play in a stadium as well. Everything's so meticulous with us, but it is just a different kind of feeling as soon as you get into those playoffs and you have all those fans in the stand.
Mm-hmm. And your next game as a team is coming up. You're going to have the Romans visiting you. Have you had much of a chance to look at them and that whole central division?
I've not really had a chance to see any game film of them. Hopefully we'll be able to do that this week. But I have played against the Romans in the past, and from what I remember, they were a very well coached team, very, very well disciplined, and it will definitely be a hard game. But I mean, every game once you get into playoffs is a hard one. There's no easy teams in there.
Of course, and good luck for Edinburgh for your playoff game. We'll be running through the playoff games later on, and we'll actually be joined by Calum. We'll try and run through all the playoff games from Division 2 as well as Division 1 and Premiership. Run through how the teams have been going and maybe give some predictions.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Okay, so stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Gridiron TV. Myself and Allan will be discussing the scores for the weekend. Allan, big scoring weekend, 800 points again.
Yeah, I mean, we thought last weekend was a high scoring one, but teams are just willing to pull out all the stops for the last week of regular season action. Like you said, there were shutouts, there were points, there was scores over 80 in some games. So yeah, really exciting to watch.
Well, I mean, let's start off as we normally do with the Premiership, Allan. What games did we have at the weekend?
Yeah, so we've got East Kilbride looking to cement that bye week in that top position, and they did that against the Rams, so 26 points to 7. They've got a week off now to have a look at the rest of the Premiership and how they do get some rest, get some training and get some planning for who they might be facing in their first playoff game.
No doubt they'll probably send a scout down to the games down south.
I'm sure these teams are all very organised, so they'll be having connections with other teams, trying to find game film, maybe sending guys to games and getting every advantage that they can to prepare them for these big important games.
The Warriors won again.
Yeah,
so that's
10-0. They've had a great season, very organised. Just continuing a momentum here now, and it's hard to see them stopping really. So they'll be looking at the first round as well, trying to find out who comes through, and you really think they're going to make it through to the final, if not to being champions. Well,
I mean, the Premiership South as well. So 3 London teams that have cemented the top 3 positions. The London O's against the Aztecs winning again at the weekend, so that also takes them to the playoffs. So certainly you can't really see past the Warriors, but when we've got the Blitz who have got a home game this weekend in, I mean the winner of that game plays against East Kilbride. Who do you fancy? Well,
I think it's going to be really hard for Doncaster. Firstly, to travel in playoffs. Secondly, to face the Blitz. So I'd probably say the London team here is going to do it. But then they're not. They've done a lot of travelling before. They've been a lot of time in Europe, so they'll know how to organise themselves for long road trips. That said, travelling to the Pirates it wouldn't be easy for any team. So that's an interesting matchup. But then again, Doncaster just might be fired up now that they want to cause an upset.
They always obviously have to travel to Tamworth to play Phoenix. As well. Not an easy game for them either.
No, Tamworth a bit resurgent, so they'll be on a kind of high point coming into the playoffs, looking to keep that going and get an upset really.
Well, let's go on to Division 1. Let's look at the high-scoring West Coast Trojans. Again, Tommy McGeorge, outstanding again. 2.5 years, over 50 touchdowns. Is there any stopping the offence of the West Coast Trojans right now? Yeah,
there's been some talk about their offence and how it's different from other people's, but they've got great running attack, they've got great passing attack, so if you try and go for one, they'll trap you with the other. So that's great to be in that position where you can have strong in both elements as well as a good defence to shut teams out and not give them a chance to try and fight back.
And we look at teams and they always have their star receiver or their star running back. We look at the Trojans again, we've just talked about them there. Tommy McGeorge, over 50 touchdowns in 2.5 years. Will the Trojans miss him, say if he was to pick up an injury or whatnot, or do you think they've got cover and backup?
I think he does make a big part of that team, and he's certainly a good player. He's had a very great year, but they've got enough balance. I think that it can be difficult if your team is based around one player. Obviously, everything breaks down if you miss that player for whatever reason. But to have balance and to have other key players step in and take up a slack, tends not to affect you too much. You can still get a win, get a good performance out of it.
Well, I mean, they've certainly earned the right to get the bye week this weekend, so it gives Gary McNay and the guys a chance to rest. But also, we'll look at other fixtures that took part in the Division 1 again at the weekend. Yeah,
let's the one that didn't make any difference in the playoffs, but one that stood out is the Nighthawks managed to finally turn it around to get their first win. So congratulations to them. It's been long overdue. Beating the Jets, so they kind of had a little slump towards the end of the year, but great that they actually get something out of the season. So they can go into off-season and they're building and whatever they have to do with a bit of a high.
I mean, it's a shame though that they get it in the last game of the season. It would be nice to maybe got it 2, 3, 4 games in, and it would have given them that momentum to take their season forward. But I was always right; they were going to get their win. I didn't believe that the Nighthawks would certainly go, winless all year. They are a very good setup. They are a good side. I just think they've probably been down the luck. They've always been here or there with scores, like last week, a couple of points in it as well. Very unlucky not to try and take away a result there. But congratulations to them, all the best, and I certainly hope they can pick it up for next season.
Yeah, and I mean, staying in Division 1 in the Central, we saw that three-way tie for the top spot, and we had Berkshire and East Kent in action. East Kent coming away with it 28-18, so they actually earned not just the victory but the bye week as well. So that's a big win for them, and Berkshire will be. They're still there, they're still playing, but they've got an extra game, an extra opponent to fight through to get to BritBowl.
Well, let's look at Division 2. Let's look at the North first. Clyde Valley narrowly beating Glasgow Tigers to clinch that playoff berth. They've not really been in very many high-scoring games, Clyde Valley, even against Carlisle, but they've managed to grind out the results. The defence is pretty well organised at the moment. Yeah,
they know how to keep it tight and then come back. In this case, Glasgow were ahead and they came back, so they're not phased by going behind. And they can grind out the results. They're not putting tons of points on the board, but they're, to avoid the cliche, they're doing just enough to win. And you never know. It's if you're a team like they'll go into the playoffs now to face Sheffield, and they're kind of the opposite. They've been putting lots and lots of points on the board. So maybe an interesting clash there. A very high-scoring team against a very low-scoring team to see who comes out there.
But a solid defence against a solid offence. Very entertaining game to see the least. Let's look at Edinburgh now, 61 points to 6. Another massive performance by the Edinburgh offence again. That's 111 points I've put against Carlisle in 2 games. I kind of feel sorry for Carlisle. They've been 2 seasons now winless. So what is it they need to do now to really try and get that first win? Well,
the key thing to come out of this is they've gone winless so far, but I think in a lot of cases people would walk away or change teams or give up. But you see the guys there; they're still fighting. They're still working as a team, working hard. They've just got a new head coach now, so things are starting to change. And I think, despite the lack of success and wins, they've got a great attitude towards working to get better and working harder. So you can see things coming for them eventually if they just keep working. So it's kind of it's a great attitude to have, to just keep fighting, keep working, and eventually it'll pay off. Yeah,
one thing you never see about Carlisle is the players never moan about anything. They always just get on with the game. They try their 100%. And unfortunately, it will come. It will come one day. I was right about the Nighthawks. I'm hoping I'm going to be right about Carlisle again, next season. And good luck, guys. Keep it going. Don't give up, and hopefully we'll see them back again next year. Yeah. But let's not take it away from Edinburgh. 61 points again. Don Emerson must be very, very happy with that. Home field advantage in the first stage of the playoffs against the Romans, which you'll discuss with Calum later. I mean, there was post-game interviews with the coaches from the Carlisle-Edinburgh game. They'll be up on the website later this week, so keep an eye out for those. Well, Alan, let's look at the other Division 1 games. We talked about Sheffield briefly. Another high-scoring game for them, settled up against Clyde Valley in the playoffs.
Yeah, so it was 82-0, so just running free basically. Sure, they got all their backups and other guys in, so it's a good warm-up for playoffs to get everybody as much experience as possible, but it's certainly going to be tougher going to playoffs. There's not going to be no 82-0s or 50-0s. It's going to be within maybe a couple of scores, you think. So it'll be a bit of a change for them, but they've got a lot of good things happening with them from the season, so I think they'll do well.
Hopefully. Let's also look at Chester Romans again. Chester Romans had unfortunately, the sad passing of one of their players' fiancés, last week, and they had a big sort of memorial day for them in a moment's silence. Yeah. Really nice touch by the team there.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the news came out to the sort of wider football community, you saw messages coming in from guys who they play each week, but then also from Premiership and Division 1 guys that they never face. So I think it's just that common factor of football players, and somebody else mentioned online this week that they kind of I think you saw partners' wives and players' wives and girlfriends and so on. They are very patient with players to spend so much time with football. Yeah, so there's 2 big aspects of people's lives.
So we talk about football every show, and we seem to forget people have got families and things like that as well, which certainly affects games. But Chester went out and they did him proud, did him his family proud with a fantastic victory again.
Yeah, I mean, it was 53-0, so they're obviously they've been playing well all year, and they didn't want to slip up, especially not going into the playoffs. So that's good momentum for them. Yeah,
it certainly is. And all the way through the whole of the second division, everything's tied up now with the playoffs, and I said we'll be talking with Callum Buckin later in the show about that. And certainly everything's shaping up. We also heard about the Cornish Sharks getting their decision turned around, so they'll be back in the playoffs again. So they'll be up against the Peterborough Saxons. Certainly a tough game for them, going against Willie White and the guys down there. So quite an interesting decision by the BAFA National Leagues to sort of overturn that decision?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of basis behind it, if anyone wasn't sure, is that there was sort of a game that couldn't go ahead earlier in the year, and it was initially the decision was that they were deemed to have forfeited the game, and by the rules of the league that would then to deny them access to the playoffs regardless of their winning record. However, they set it out to the league as to how they thought this was incorrect, and then after review it's been turned around. So we were expecting Bournemouth to take that spot, but it's now back to Cornish, who have the higher record. So they'll be the ones making the trip. It's just maybe a double-edged sword. It's not a pleasant trip to take through to Peterborough and face such a good team. So, but at least they get the chance to go into playoffs.
Well, Peterborough, the only second team in the league, has got a 10-0 record, along with the London Warriors. So certainly a difficult road trip for them to go up against.
Yeah, definitely.
So actually, don't go away. We'll be right back. Where Allan will be chatting to Edinburgh Wolves wide receiver Callum Buckin.
Well, welcome back. We're now going to run through the first round of the playoffs. I'm joined once again by Calum. So we've just run through the scores from last week. So it's a really high scoring last week of the regular season, and we now move into these last few games of the season. We'll start with Premiership first of all. It's been very exciting both in the north and the south. We've got a couple of good matchups coming. First of all, we've got the Olympians travelling to face the Phoenix. So the two teams have pretty good seasons, ups and downs, wouldn't you say? But who do you think is going to get the best out of this one?
To be honest, when it comes to the playoffs, I always think that home field has the advantage. So, in my mind, it will be a close game. Like I said earlier, you only get good teams that make it into the playoffs. But I've got to go with Phoenix on this one.
Okay. So, you think maybe by 1 or 2 scores, or do you think they'll be able to get a good number on them?
I would say it'll be really close, probably a field goal.
Really?
That close, I would say.
Great, so I hope maybe an exciting finish for that one.
Yeah, definitely, a very close one.
And then the other one, which may or may not be so close, is the Doncaster travelling down to face the Blitz. So we've followed the Blitz previous years. We've always said how good they are this year. This is going to be difficult for Doncaster, isn't it?
I think the Blitz just have too much for Doncaster. I mean, EK played against Doncaster, basically playing their backups and hammered Doncaster. I just can't see them overcoming the Blitz, especially with that travel down to London. Honestly, I don't even think this one will be that close.
And then, of course, the winner of those 2 games, in fact, faced either the Pirates or the Warriors. So great seasons they've had. So it's going to be hard for whichever team comes through on those games.
Well, I think the Warriors, I've got to see them being in that final. The real question is, can the Blitz beat the Pirates? Obviously, they'd have to travel up to Scotland. I'd actually really hope that EK can get into this final. But I would still think the Warriors are going to win the Premiership this year.
Okay, good. So let's move on to Division 1 now. We had an exciting final week, particularly in the Central, with the 3 teams vying for 2 positions. We had Berkshire and East Kent coming down to it on the last week, but we've now got our fixtures in place. We've got the Trojans, though, on a bye week as well, so they've had a fantastic season, putting a lot of points on the board, and they've surely got a good chance of going through to the final.
Yeah, I really like the way West Coast Trojans have set up this year. I think they're very strong again. Div 1 is going to be a lot tighter than the Premiership, but I'd like to see West Coast in the final.
Yeah, and then likewise, we've also got East Kent getting the first bye from the first week. But talking about games, we've got Nottingham and Berkshire. So Nottingham with a kind of a more compressed season down at the front end, but doing very well. Do you think they can take it one step further?
I've played against Nottingham in the past, and they were actually quite a tough team to beat, very physical. Just because they're a team that I have played against in the past, that would probably be my pick. Not too educated, but you never know.
Okay, and then the other team in that vie for the Central is Sussex Thunder, travelling north to face the Wolverines. So again, do you think they can push through? They've been to BritBowl before, so can they get back there again?
I think if you've ever been to BritBowl, it kind of helps you out in the long term. So yeah, I think they should be able to get through to the next round.
Okay, is that a close game or?
I guess this one will be quite close as well. Probably maybe a touchdown in it at most.
Okay. Well, that does it for Division 1, and we'll finish off with Division 2. Going from north to south, we may have a little bit of bias here, but you've got yourselves facing off, like we said earlier, against the Romans. So I know you said you were confident for that game. But then also from the north, we've got Clyde Valley. Made it through just against the Tigers this last week. They had their game against Tigers, and it was a winner-take-all fashion where they came out 17-13, so they clawed it back to get in. But they'll face Sheffield Predators, who've been pretty dominant on the scoreboard, really. They put up over 80 points this last weekend. So how do you think they're going to do facing a Scottish team?
There's been a lot of talk about the Sheffield Predators, and I think a lot of people are actually kind of thinking this is just going to be a cakewalk for them. Like Clyde Valley aren't going to be a factor. I think Sheffield are in for quite a surprise. Clyde Valley have all the tools to beat Sheffield, and I don't even see it as being an upset, because the way Clyde Valley play against that Sheffield offence, it's just a perfect match. I really think this one will be a close one, and maybe I'm being biased because I'm Scottish, but I actually think Clyde Valley could do it.
Okay, and moving further south, we've got the Pathfinders, Milton Keynes, against Oxford Saints. So number 1 in the west against number 2 in the east. Have you seen much of either team?
I'll be honest, I've not really seen too much of anything other than the highlights that we've got on Gridiron TV. But I think number 1 goes through.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that again, that home field advantage making a difference.
And it just makes so much of a difference. The travel that you have to go through. I mean, the way the divisions are now set up, they're so compressed. You don't really have it's not really too big an ordeal as it used to be. So as soon as you come to the playoffs, it's a bit of a shock to the system. Your whole routine isn't really as crisp as what it is normally. It's just such a big difference maker.
Okay. And then we've also got the Cornish Sharks. So previously, with the events of the last few weeks, we were expecting the Bournemouth Bobcats to come through. We've now got the Sharks. But they're facing against the Saxons, so a long trip for them against a very strong team that a lot of people are tipping to go all the way to the final.
Yeah, they're being tipped to go all the way to the final, but I just think the amount of talk about the Cornish Sharks that I've seen floating about, it probably will spur those players on. Almost nobody wants us here attitude, playing with a bit of a chip on your shoulder. It could cause an upset. I mean, it will be hard for them. Again, the travel, it's such a big factor, but maybe if they can keep it within a score, field goal, I don't know. I'd like to see Cornish go through, but I do like the bad guys. Okay,
so maybe an upset there, but that does it. We've also mentioned a few from the junior finals as well. Congratulations to the junior teams that made it through. We've got the Birmingham Bulls facing the Longhorns. So again, another Scottish team. Birmingham travelling up to face them. It's really going to be a tricky one for them.
Yeah, it will be a tough one, but if we know anything about the Birmingham programs, they are always just such skillful players. They've got great fundamentals, so I actually think Birmingham could win this one.
Okay, and again, like with the seniors, we see the same teams from the juniors going through. So Lancashire, Nottingham, also their junior teams are making through. So good signs of excellence throughout their programs.
Yeah, it's good to see that these clubs are taking the time to try and develop from the grassroots up, and it's something that the Wolves are doing as well, and it's only going to pay dividends in the future. Yeah,
and in the last 2 games we've got the Warriors and the Gladiators, and then Cambridgeshire travelling to the Blitz. So again, Blitz Warriors, another example of depth throughout the entire organisation, building their juniors. And I know Colchester, they also have a very successful youth programme at the moment. So good luck to all the teams playing this weekend and throughout the playoffs. We'll be keeping you informed of all the scores and updates as we go. Coming up next, we've got Stuart Young coming back to tell us all the highlights from Top Gun.
Hi, welcome back to Gridiron TV. Allan, we recently spoke to Ben Herod, whose interview we'll be introducing very shortly, head coach of Team Europe. Now, he was out at Williamsburg in Virginia, regards to Top Gun that took place, and there was a number of British athletes who took part as well. What's your making of Top Gun over in the States, and why were the British guys over there?
I mean, it looked like such a fantastic event. There's hundreds and hundreds of top football athletes from around the US, but then also some international guys from the UK and so on. So it's a chance for them to get top level coaching. We've discussed FBU before. It's obviously been here to Stirling. It will return soon to Bristol as well. So it's coming back to the UK and Europe. But it's a great opportunity for young guys to learn football skills and to get the exposure to top level coaches in the US, so college coaches who you never know, maybe scouting them, maybe looking for them, could ultimately lead to something more for them in the future. So it really looked and sounded like a great event. We were following it online, seeing the photos, hearing the discussions from the guys, and the UK guys that were out there did themselves proud.
And they did. And just to emphasise to our viewers at home, Top Gun is basically a camp in America, which is athletes who are selected from various camps that FBU hold. And obviously the one in Stirling, they'd recognised a number of potential athletes that they want to have a closer look at out in the States. And to be fair, and what I've been hearing report-wise, they've held up really well against American kids.
Yeah, I mean, we were following it, and a lot of these American guys, they've already committed to Division 1, Division 2 schools, so no doubt they're incredibly talented themselves. But for anyone to hold their own against them, but even to excel, it reflects well on how hard the UK athletes are training and how well their coaches are working with them, and I'm sure it'll pay off at some point.
Well, certainly, we've got Ben Herod on the phone just now. So, Ben, welcome to the show.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Ben, you were recently in Williamsburg, Virginia, for the Top Gun event. How was that for yourself?
It was excellent. First of all, I should probably thank Steve Quinn and Football University for inviting myself and Coach Robert Allwright there. To get exposure to that many NFL coaches over 3-4 days, including kind of talking to them after the event, during the event, and to get kind of the all access pass that we had to just stand and watch and take everything in was just, it's phenomenal. My head's still buzzing from it now. It was just a tremendous experience.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen the coaches they brought over to the UK, but I believe they had newer coaches sort of teaching the young athletes. I keep going to call them kids. They're not. They're young athletes at the end of the day. And we saw some of the videos online from Football University TV, and very impressed with some of the young athletes that took place.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of expecting good things from a couple of them, but to be honest, all of them did a lot better than I think they expected, and a lot better than we expected. Obviously, kind of the highlight is Alex Jenkins, who's just got a phenomenal buzz about him at the moment, and I say it a lot at the moment, and I seem to be saying it even more now, but it couldn't happen to a nicer kid. I mean, he's just a phenomenally humble kid who's just worked incredibly hard. Only been playing a sport since January. Came to his first training session that he ever came to was because Cecil Martin was going to be there from FBU in Bristol. So, kind of FBU have got a lot to play in his overall success, and for him even getting involved in the sport to start with.
I mean, a lot of people, that's a sort of kind of message out to people who haven't turned up to the Football University, and we've got one coming up on the 29th of August this year in Bristol. Is this a message to a lot of young athletes in the UK? If you turn up and you work hard, there's rewards at the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think Alex will mind me saying this. I mean, as phenomenal an athlete as Alex is, there are much better football players in this country than Alex. I mean, and there are kids just as athletic as Alex that he's played in the community league for the Bristol Aztecs. He knows what's out there. He's come against kids that are as good as he is, and work as hard as he is. It's just the opportunities that these people get, and you don't get better opportunities than what FBU offer. I mean, there just is nothing out there in Europe for kids to do that can rival it. If they do well enough, they're going to get an invitation to Top Gun for next year. If they do incredibly well, they might get selected for the Team Europe, which will be a game in Texas this coming January in front of, God knows how many college recruiters. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with what's actually happened with Alex Jenkins in the short time since he's been back, but he's had a feature done on him in Rivals.com, which is leading to he's already had one official Division 2 scholarship offer, a full football ride, plus there's a lot of buzz around him with a couple of Division 1 schools, including some features done on a Miami Hurricanes website So, I mean, it's just what FBU could do for young athletes in this country if they buy into it is, it's mind-boggling.
Ben, I mean, obviously, Alex, it was just one piece in the puzzle from the UK. Was a number of young athletes involved. Was there any other standouts there, or any other young athletes who did exceptionally well that have taken maybe some interest to the scouts?
Yeah, Jordan Eaton, who was our only representation in the receiving corps with the seniors as well as Alex, the older group of kids that were there. I mean, Jordan's was an All-Europe athlete for us in the Pride 2 years ago. Graduated in 2010, and he's one of the younger kids he was almost young enough to come back last year. He's been out of football a year, working really hard in the gym. A fantastic athlete. He was by far and away the best receiver there on day one. He was just getting open on every single pass. Unfortunately, unlike Alex, his position's completely reliant on him getting fed the ball to keep looking good. And despite a fantastic day one where rivals were as interested in him as they were at Alex, his day two and day three, he just didn't get the ball enough. Whereas Alex, he as a defensive lineman, his whole future's in his own hands, and if he performs well, that's enough. Jordan's not only got to perform well, but he's got to hope that the quarterback makes the correct read to throw him the ball as well. So unfortunately, he didn't quite get the same kind of response that Alex has. But I think the confidence that he was by far and away the best receiver there on day one, and probably day 2 and 3, but just didn't get the ball. I would expect that confidence to do him the world of good as far as how he puts himself across now to college recruiters and college scouts, and making that jump out to the NCAA, because he now knows he's more than good enough.
What about yourself as a coach, though? I mean, what did you take away from the week when you were over in Virginia?
It's kind of a silly thing to start with. I got to meet one of my all-time idols, which is Sam Weiss, one of the 49ers original sort of coaching staff with Bill Walsh. Went on to actually coach against Bill Walsh for the Bengals in the Super Bowl, and I grew up with football in the 80s, and we didn't get a whole lot of football on TV, but what we did seemed to feature Sam Weiss quite a lot. So to meet him in person and get to have a couple of, even though there were very short conversations with him, and just an amazing guy, just an incredible coach. Got to speak to Coach Thurman Moore again, Coach Cecil Martin obviously as well, and just learn a lot. It's just standing and watching how they prepared their players from silly little things like, we all talk about it a lot as coaches in this country, how long to spend on a warm-up. Well, to see what the NFL guys do and how long they want to spend on a warm-up for a camp, things like that were interesting to take away from it, as well as how they didn't just jump straight from that into something else. They warmed players up position specifically afterwards. It was just there was so much to take away from it, and it's now kind of going through all the film and making sure that I don't forget anything going into our preseason next week. So,
I mean, what's next for you and the Team Europe guys? I know the FBU are coming over to Europe again in August. When's the first date for that?
Yeah, I think our first date is in the 25th of August in Germany, which will be with a guy called Coach Holland, who runs a German schools league, which is an interesting idea that I'm looking at for England as well. I'm running some schools stuff over here. He runs it very successfully over in Germany with, I think he's got more than 500 or 600 native German kids that play in his, just in his local schools league. So we're going to run one clinic with himself there, which is, I think, about 20 minutes outside of Frankfurt. I'm not going to try and pronounce where it is. Then we've on the 26th, the Sunday, we go down to Ansbach in Germany, which is where we'll be holding our first Dodds clinic, which is the Liga which the Pride play in. Which will be all the Americans off of all the American bases in Germany and the surrounding countries. We're then we're down to the Netherlands with Coach Henk, and we're gonna hold a clinic there on the Monday. Then Tuesday's Belgium, and then Wednesdays is fly back into Bristol and hold a clinic in Bristol.
That's on the 29th, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah. So it's going to be a hectic few days.
No, totally understandable. And the good thing is, it gives you a chance to look at other young athletes across the whole of the continent as well, and make your selections for the remaining places for Team Europe, I suppose, as well. But certainly, if anybody wants to get involved, anyone wants to really sort of register their name, not just for the British ones, but obviously anybody who watches in the continent, how can they get involved? How is it to register?
I think there's two really good ways. Obviously, you can go to the Football University website, which is just footballuniversity.org. And there's information on there about how to register for all their clinics and camps, including the ones in Europe. There's also, if you Facebook Football University, there's a big page set up at the moment for all the European dates where players can post on the wall to find out more information. I know that Steve Corinne, the head of European operations, is pretty much always on there and quick and able to answer all the questions that anybody's got.
Well, Ben,
Perfect.
Thank you for taking your time and having a chat with us. Obviously, I'd like to wish you all the very best when you're travelling across Europe. I'm sure it's a really hard job for you.
It is, isn't it? But you'll be joining us anyway in September with the Pride, obviously, to run the first trip to Ramstein. You'll be with us there, won't you? So
we will, yes, we definitely will be. And we're certainly looking forward to it. We've got interviews lined up with the Ramstein coaches, so we'll be chatting to them, getting their take on the Bristol Pride. So we'll see what they've got to say about you as well.
Hopefully good things.
Well, you never know. We'll soon see. I won't let you hear the recordings, but it'll be interesting. But look, Ben, until next time we speak, I'd like to wish you all the very best. Good luck with the camps if I don't speak to you beforehand. But we'll meet up again soon.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Stu. Appreciate that. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks to Ben Herod for his interview there. And talking of Alex Jenkins, we have Alex Jenkins now on the telephone.
It's Alex, thanks for joining us. So you've just been at Top Gun. Tell us about your experience over in Virginia.
Oh no, it was great. We went to Virginia. I headed down with Coach Ben Herod. It was good. A lot of really top class talent down in Virginia. You know, there's a lot of players, like local players, a lot of good talent, and just the quality of some of the linemen I had to go against were just crazy, really good.
Yeah, we've seen some of the video highlights come back from that. You competing against guys who are now planning to going into Division 1 and Division 2 schools, and you're certainly holding your own. So you seem to impress a lot of coaches, in fact.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was a really good experience. It was hard. It was definitely hard, and these are definitely some good players. But I think I held my own quite well. So yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the layout. You know, how did each day go? What was the practice plan and so on?
For the first day we arrived, we got all given our kit, given the shoes, the gloves, the kit, and then we got to do a little warm up for a couple of hours, and then we came back, did maybe a 2-hour session, and the heat was something different. It was a lot different to back in England. You know, we played in the rain most of the time. The heat was touching on 45 degrees sometimes, and I had to wear a helmet as well, so that wasn't that great, but get used to it. So the next day, the mornings would be it'd be classroom session, so it'd be a film review of the day before, and then it'd be lunchtime, and then we transition to the field, and then from the field back to the classroom, and then transition back into the field again. So that's how the days sort of went.
And we've on Gridiron TV, we've been following your progress throughout the years. You've been working very hard. You know, you're a very committed athlete and a football player, and now you've had a chance to look at what guys are like in the US and how they approach their football training. And ideally, you'd want to continue your career. So, what are your next steps for continuing to train for football and for playing?
Oh well, the next step is just to go back to what I've been doing before I got to the camp. So it's back training. I got pre-season with the Bristol Academy Pride in the next couple of days, and then I've got Great Britain training in the next couple of weeks, and I'm playing with Great Britain in September. So it's just physically being prepared to go over there if anything comes of offers or anything like that. It's just being prepared physically and mentally.
Of course, you're all also looking towards trying to make it into the Team Europe squad to join FBU as they travel across to San Antonio for that international tournament. So no doubt that'll be something in your mind as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's coming up in January, so that's a big thing on my mind. Like waiting for that as well, like seeing what the team's going to be like, and that's gonna be a great experience as well. That's all the FBU guys as well. It's a great team of people as well.
So have you got any more information? Are you going to be attending the next FBU camp being held in Bristol?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll definitely be there in late August, I think it is. I'll definitely be there. Just to join in and just get some coaching from Furman Moore, because I haven't had a chance to be coached under him yet at any of these camps. So it'd be great to have a few tips from him and maybe some advice as well. And to see Cecil Martin again, that would be good.
And then we'll go back to looking at the future. We'll obviously wait for the future, to see if anything does come of the camp in terms of any offers or interest from any US colleges. But in an ideal world, is there anywhere in particular that you would like to end up?
I like Miami. I like the Miami team because one of my favorite players, Ray Lewis, he went there. And I like Virginia. No, I love Virginia. I fell in love with the town when I went to Top Gun. There's teams in Nebraska I like as well. To be honest, anything would be a dream. It's just the strive to get to there now.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll keep supporting you. We'll keep watching your progress, and hope things turn out great.
Yeah, thanks, Allan. Cheers.
And thanks to Alex Jenkins for coming on the show. Take care, Alex. Appreciate your time. Allan, we were spoken to Ben and Alex Jenkins. We've got FBU coming up in Bristol area where those two guys, have worked hard tirelessly at Filton Academy. On the 29th of August this year, times 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. I believe as well. Do you know, what would you say, you've been to one of these camps, I haven't personally witnessed one, what would you say to the young athletes who are maybe considering travelling to Bristol for that event?
I think that the one thing that stood out for me was just the energy and enthusiasm, not just from the coaching staff, but the players themselves. I think they understood how beneficial it was going to be, and they upped their game and those around them. So there was a great team spirit from guys who'd never met each other, who were just happy to get that coaching and make the absolute best of the day, because obviously they're paying a little bit to be there, so they want to get everything from it. So it's simple. That the coaches are so experienced, they make it look very simple. It's very organised. There's no standing about, but the guys take in a lot. And we were talking with them after each day and at the end of the whole camp, and you hear how much they've learned, and they changed the whole perspective on their position and the game in general. So it is very much worth going down. It's obviously up north last time in Stirling, so now you get a lot of guys closer to Bristol in that area to go. Yeah. And definitely recommend it just to be there. Good, certainly. And you can also go into our website, and you can also check out the details there where you can go and register. So make sure you get on that. Spaces are running out very quickly. Well, that's great news about FBU, but the next big event coming up, of course, is BritBowl, 25th and 26th of August. So, if you are available, head on down to the Don Valley Stadium. Don't worry if you can't make it, we'll also be streaming it live. It's a fantastic weekend of football. You've got the top teams in action, the Premiership, Division 1, Division 2, and of course the junior finals, all in the stadium. Great atmosphere with all the fans come down, and it's a good price for tickets, just £10. You can get details online. You can go through our website at www.gridirontv.co.uk. And also, just to ratify, to add on to the end of that, Allan, so that's going to be flag events at the finals as well, which will be taking place. So certainly come down and watch a bit of flag football as well. Bring the kids down and get the family involved. But as Allan mentions, if you want to get in contact with us, you can also get us on Facebook. It's just Facebook, Gridiron TV. Yeah, or you can follow our live score updates for the playoff games leading up to BritBowl at gridiron_TV. And we're also on email. You can drop us a message on email at gridirontv@gmail.com. And as well, you can head to the website for any of our old episodes, old scores, and scores from the playoff games as well. So from myself and from Allan for this weekend show, thank you for joining us. Good night.